Hey there, real quick before the episode, I just wanted to give a heads up that in the first 5 minutes of this episode, there is some white noise, fuzziness happening, and a couple cracks and pops. It resolves within the first 5 minutes. I think it was something going on with my mic, so I'm tweaking and troubleshooting to make sure it doesn't happen in the future. Apologies for this time. Thanks for sticking with me while I figure things out and learn. And thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. On to the show. Welcome back to More to the Story. I am your host, Janna Maron, and this is the podcast all about writing and publishing true personal stories, creative nonfiction, particularly books, although I do publish a literary arts magazine called Under the Gumtree, which publishes short form creative nonfiction and visual art. You can learn more about Under the Gumtree at underthegumtree.com. And in addition to this podcast and the magazine, I'm also a book coach and editor for women writing nonfiction books. You can find out more about that work and working with me at the website, More to the Story, moretothestory.co. That is .co, not .com. Welcome back. Thanks for being here. It is approaching the end of February, and I'd like to ask you a question. If you started this year thinking, okay, this is it, this is the year, I'm really going to do it, it's a new year, I have the whole year ahead of me, I'm going to finally write my book, I'm going to finally finish my book, I'm going to finally figure out how to get it published, figure out which publishing path I want to pursue, this is it, 2025 is the year. We're coming to the end of February. So the question is, what have you done to start moving in that direction? What have you done? What actions have you taken to start getting you closer to that thing that you say that you want? And how long has it been that you've been saying to yourself, this is the year, and it hasn't happened yet? And if that's the case, leave a comment, find me on Instagram, shoot me a direct message. Let's talk. Let's figure out what's holding you back and see if there might be some ways that I can help you. My primary offer is Nonfiction Bootcamp. It is a DIY video course designed to help you finish your book manuscript. There's also a group coaching option. You can get the course plus group coaching. Work with me and my other coaching clients who are all moving toward their goal. I have several clients with books coming out in the next couple of months. It's all very exciting stuff. So always have to start out with asking you, where are you with the goal that you have set for yourself of writing and finishing and publishing a book? And that ties directly into the topic that I have today, which is all about when you've never done something before. And this came up recently in a group coaching session with my clients because we get on these group calls regularly. If you have a membership for group coaching with me, we have a call on a regular basis where we all get on a call. Each person has an opportunity to talk and share whatever's going on in their life. Sometimes it's just an update and we celebrate because, like I said, I've got several folks with books coming out. So they're doing tasks and assignments from people like they're working with for publicity or marketing or their publisher, and they're not necessarily working on the book manuscript anymore, at least not right now. Some of them have new book manuscripts in progress, but those aren't the priority while they're working toward publication of their first book. So sometimes we're just celebrating, which is awesome. I love those kind of moments when we can just listen and hear what's going on and celebrate and hold space for that, because it is important to hold space for celebrating. That's another thing that I'm really that I really like to emphasize and call attention to is we can get into these moments of just focusing only on everything that there is to do, and I haven't done enough and there's still so much more to do, and we never pause and we never reflect on all the things you've already accomplished, and we don't celebrate, which makes it hard to feel like we're actually making progress. If we don't stop and acknowledge the things that we've already accomplished, we just kind of ignore that and keep looking forward and keep staring down at that never-ending to-do list. Of course you're never going to feel like you're making progress because you're only focusing on the things you haven't done. So one of the things that I help my clients with is to really take time to stop and focus and give attention and celebrate the things that you have. We really take time to focus on celebrating when clients come on these coaching calls and they have good news to share. But one of my other clients, she has 2 books published. One is a memoir and one is a companion workbook to the memoir. And she's got another companion workbook in the progress. It's about to be published in the next 2 or 3 months. And then she still has like 2 or 3 books after that that she wants to publish. And these are self-published books. So she was talking about how she was working on the cover for the book that's about ready to be published. And she has the first 2 books already published. The covers are very complementary to each other. They're both using images that were taken on the same day during a workshop that she was a part of where a photographer was present. So it wasn't a dedicated photo shoot just for her, but she happened to have photos of herself that she was able to use for her book covers. And the cover designs are very complementary, and the images are very cohesive because they were taken during the same day. So she's talking about how she's working on the cover for the next book, and she doesn't have any more images from that particular day, so that she wants the next cover of her book to match, but she doesn't really have any existing images that would accomplish that. And so as I'm listening to her talk, I'm asking her questions like, okay, so when were those photos taken? And she says, she kind of guesses maybe about 15 years ago. 15 years ago. And I said, okay, and since then, you've not published 1 book, but 2 books. You continue to work professionally in your field. You continue to give regular talks and workshops in your area of expertise. You need photos of yourself for including in bios and information about these presentations and workshops that you offer regularly, right? She's kind of nodding along as I'm saying all these things, asking her these questions. She's affirming. And I said, okay, so sounds like it might be time for you to have a professional photo shoot. And not just headshots, but a photo shoot that will, yes, get you some headshots, but also get you some images that will be appropriate for not just this book, but for future books. And she kind of clams up. She kind of closes her eyes. She kind of squinches up her face a little bit. And I just wait a beat or 2, and I say, okay, what's going on? What's coming up for you? And we start talking through it. And the first thing out of her mouth is, well, I've never done it before. And then she goes on with things like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to find a photographer. It makes me uncomfortable thinking about like being in front of a camera. I don't know how much it'll cost. I don't know how to prepare. I don't know what to wear. So she kind of like starts talking about all of these questions, but also insecurities and doubts that she has about this idea of doing a professional photo shoot. And so it was really great because we were on a call with, I think there were 4 or 5 other folks on the call, and excuse me, one of them has an agent, 2 of them have books coming out in the next 12 months or so. And she says, not she, one of the other clients on the call, they all kind of jump in right away with ideas and support and suggestions and encouragement, and we all talk through it, and she kind of finally comes to a place of accepting and thinking like, okay, yeah, maybe this is something that I can do. But the one thing I wanted to focus on that came out of this conversation is I heard one of the other women on the call say to her, well, when I first met you, you had never written a book before, and you've certainly had never published a book before, and now you have 2 books. And that was exactly the thing that I was thinking. That was exactly the thing that came to mind for me right away. As soon as I heard her say the words, well, I've never done that before, immediately in my head, I was like, well, when you first started working with me, when you first came to More to Story community, you hadn't written a book before. You hadn't published a book before, and now you have 2 books published. Self-published, not only just published, but self-published. Sometimes I think that self-publishing is maybe even more challenging than publishing with a publisher, because you have to figure out everything on your own. If you want your book copy edited, if you want your book proofread, if you want a nice cover that you're not going to just do on your own in like Canva, for example, you got to hire people to do that work for you. You have to get online and figure out, okay, is it going to be Amazon? Is it going to be KDP? Am I going to get print? Am I going to get copies printed? Am I going to do that through Amazon? Am I going to find a local printer or a printer who can do a small batch print run for me? there's all these, and then do I want an ebook? I got to figure out how to convert the file for ebook. Like there's all these things that you are in charge of figuring out on your own if you're doing it yourself, which is why a lot of people would rather have a publisher. There's pros and cons to both, right? That's a whole other episode for another day. Maybe I'll do a talk or a little episode on self-publishing versus traditional publishing. How do you decide? A lot of folks I know who choose the self-publishing route choose it because they want to retain control. They want to have the opportunity to earn more royalties. They don't want to share with a publisher. They don't want to have to wait on the timeline of a traditional publisher. So there's, like I said, there's pros and cons to both. But regardless, self-publishing, meaning this client of mine had to figure out all that stuff by herself, which is something she had never done before. And so right away, this came up for me, and I was like, okay, when this comes up, when the resistance says, well, it's something I've never done before, does that mean we shouldn't do it? Is that a hard stop? Does that mean it can't be done? Does that mean it shouldn't be done? Maybe there are things that you've never done before that you never want to do. Like for me, a crazy unrelated example would be skydiving. I've never skydived before. I don't have a desire to do it. So just because it comes up and I think to myself, well, I've never done that before, that's not necessarily what we're talking about here. Where what I want to challenge you or make you aware of is when there's an opportunity for expansion and growth and challenging yourself in a way that is most likely going to be a net positive. It's going to benefit you in some way. For this example with my client, if she can get over the hurdle of these initial resistance thoughts that come up for her, it's going to benefit her by not only having the experience of this photo shoot and probably learning and understanding that, hey, that wasn't that bad, that maybe it is a little awkward and uncomfortable in some moments, but at the end of the day, if you find the right professional, they're going to make you feel comfortable. They're going to make you feel natural. They're going to help you create images that you can use in multiple different ways, not just a headshot. But for this particular client, her book cover, and maybe she'll end up with some that she can even use on social media and updating her website. Who knows? When it's something that is expansion and growth and really ultimately going to benefit you and help you in the long run, and this initial kind of like, oh, I've never done that before comes up, what I'm getting at here is learning how to kind of pause and stop and capture that resistance, or not capture it, but like kind of turn and look at it and interrogate it a little bit. Like get curious about, okay, so I've never done it before. Why have I never done it before? Maybe it's only because you haven't had the opportunity, but now that the opportunity is presenting itself, why have you, another question could be like, why have you never thought to do that before? Why have you not explored it on your own? Why have you shut down the idea in the past? Similar to what I was saying last week, these are some questions that you can start using to get curious about what's happening for you, what's going on inside, what is coming up internally, and really exploring and asking yourself, okay, what is true here? Is the fact that I haven't done something before automatically telling me I can't do it, that I don't know how to do it, and I'll never be able to figure it out? Is that true? Or is it true that I've just never challenged myself in this way? I've never allowed myself to go down this path and to see what it might lead to. And why not? Why shouldn't I explore? Why shouldn't I see what might happen? Some other questions are, what would happen if you tried it? What would happen if you didn't try it? What's the worst that could happen if you tried it? What's the worst that could happen if you don't try it? And just start allowing yourself to imagine and think beyond I've never done that before. And then once you can think and kind of expand your mind, that opens up space for you to expand your actual action into taking action and exploring. And sometimes the action, the first action doesn't even have to be that scary. The first action could simply be doing a Google search or reaching out to your network for recommendations or referrals, or talking to somebody you know who has done this thing that you're considering. And all of this is related to publishing a book, right? So many women that I work with have never written a book. They've never published a book. And a lot of times the thing that's holding them back is that they've never done it before, so they don't know that they have the ability. They don't think of themselves as capable in the area of writing and publishing a book. But I'm here to tell you that many women that have worked with me have done it, are fully capable of doing it, and if they are, so are you. And I'm one of those women myself. I haven't had a book published yet, but I have one manuscript complete that I have queried and have been seeking agent representation for, and I have also submitted to some small press publishers and manuscript contests, and it just hasn't happened that there's been any movement on it for me yet, but I'm doing it. I'm taking action. I have a complete manuscript. I also have a second manuscript in progress. Well, I think it's a manuscript. I don't really know what it is yet, but I am working through some material that I have to figure out what it is, and that's just it. Sometimes the action is just to figure it out. And maybe once you figure it out, once you get more information, you decide, no, you know what, that's not for me. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't investigate. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't take a few steps and just start taking one step at a time. And as you do one step, the next step becomes a little bit more manageable. You can start to see like, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can move forward. Oh, that first step wasn't so bad, so maybe the next step won't be so bad either. Oh, maybe it's not so scary to talk to someone like me and ask questions about what it would be like to work with me and how it would help you, and how so many of my clients have been working on their manuscript for years and years and years and spinning their wheels. And then as soon as they start working with me, what happens? They finish. And not only do they finish, but they take the next steps toward getting published, and they get accepted to prestigious writing conferences, and they win manuscript contests that include publication, and they get accepted for publication, and they self-publish. So there's all these kinds of different things that can happen further down the road. Like, I'm not even talking about that happening today or tomorrow, but what I am talking about is just taking that first step. And sometimes that first step, like I said, is just a little bit of research. It's just a conversation. And I'm available for that kind of first step. I'm available for that conversation. I'm available for just helping you to start explore and start to begin that little flicker, that little twinkle of expansion that maybe you need to a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, be closer to where you want to be with your book. So this is a little bit of a shorter episode today, and that's totally fine. I have, as I've said in the last couple of episodes since I relaunched this podcast, there are no hard and fast rules. There is no hard and fast format for this show any longer. I get in front of this computer. I get in front of this mic. I hit record. I hit record in GarageBand, which is what I use for the audio. I also record video. So if you ever curious about what it looks like when I talk, I am kind of animated. For those of you who maybe know me and know me personally, you can see what this whole shenanigan looks like if you head on over to YouTube. I'm posting video versions of this podcast on YouTube as well as on Substack and wherever you're getting your podcast, because you can find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Podcasts, I'm on Pocket Casts, and probably a few other places that I don't remember. But thank you so much for being here. You can follow me on Instagram at Janna Marlise. You can follow Under the Gumtree on Instagram at Under Gumtree. You can learn more about Nonfiction Bootcamp, the DIY course that I mentioned at, what is the link for that? Go visit the Substack post for the links. I will drop the links there. I will be better prepared in the future episodes to say the links in the audio. And I do, however, know the link for subscribing to my email list, which is jannamarlise.com/keep-in-touch. Keep in touch is hyphenated. When you sign up there, you get a free download for busting through the 2 most common fears that keep women from writing their books. So if that's you, that download might be helpful for you. I'm working on a new free download that I should have available in the next 2 weeks or so. This episode is publishing at the end of February. I will be going to the conference Alt Summit in Palm Springs, which is mid-March. I don't remember the dates right off the top of my head. And I will be going to AWP at the end of March in LA. So if you're listening and you're going to be going to any of those conferences, be sure to find me. Be sure to let me know. Message me on Instagram. Leave a comment on Substack. I'd love to connect with you in person. I'll be at AWP with Under the Gumtree, so you need to look for the Under the Gumtree booth. But Under the Gumtree will also be hosting an off-site reading event in partnership with River Teeth, 4th Genre, Hippocampus Magazine. Each of our publications will be featuring 2 readers. That's happening on Friday, March 28th from 6 to 8 p.m. And I will share more share all the details about that also in the Substack post. So check out the Substack post for all the links that I'm mentioning. Thanks for being here. Last thing, my husband, Jeremy Maron, wrote and performed the theme song for this podcast, which I just love and think is so sweet. There is a longer version to the theme song. Should I put the long version at the end of the episodes? I mean, if you're interested, let me know. I'll drop in the longer version of the theme song. If you want to have a little catchy tune about telling stories. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And I'll talk to you soon on the next episode of More to the Story.